What happens when Hollywood's most outspoken tough guy meets daytime television's most controversial host? Mark Wahlberg thought he was walking into a routine promotional appearance on The View. But what unfolded was an explosive confrontation that left producers scrambling and security on high alert. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. It was a masterclass in how personal grudges can obliterate professional boundaries. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment, because this story only gets more intense with each passing minute. Mark Wahlberg adjusted his tie as he stepped onto the set of The View, flashing his trademark smile to the studio audience. The applause was warm, even welcoming, but there was something in Joy Behar's eyes that immediately put him on edge. He'd done hundreds of interviews, faced critics and skeptics alike, but something about Joy's expression told him this wasn't going to be the friendly chat his publicist had promised. "Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar," she began, her voice carrying that familiar sharpness seasoned viewers knew meant trouble. "We're here with Mark Wahlberg." Then, leaning in slightly, she added, "And Mark, I have to say, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time." Mark settled into his seat, Boston confidence radiating from his every move. "Thanks for having me, Joy. Always a pleasure to be here with you ladies." "Oh, is it though?" Joy's smile was razor sharp, almost predatory. "Because I seem to recall you having some rather strong opinions about people in my profession. Something about actors thinking they're political experts." The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the usual playful banter they expected during celebrity interviews. Mark's jaw tightened ever so slightly. But he kept his composure. "I think you might be taking something out of context there, Joy." "Am I though?" Shot back. "Because I have the quote right here." Joy shuffled through her cue cards with theatrical flair. Quote, "Some of these Hollywood seed types need to stick to what they know instead of lecturing working-class Americans about politics. Ring any bells?" Mark leaned forward, his voice steady but firm. "That wasn't directed at anyone in particular, Joy. And frankly, I stand by it. There's a difference between having opinions and talking down to people. Talking down to people." Joy repeated, her voice thick with mock concern. "That's rich coming from someone who's made a career playing the tough guy from the streets. Tell me, Mark, when exactly did you become the spokesperson for working-class Americans?" The temperature in the studio seemed to drop a few degrees. Co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and the others exchanged uneasy glances. This was meant to be a light-hearted promo, not a political ambush. "I've never claimed to be anyone's spokesperson," Mark replied, his Boston accent becoming more pronounced as the tension built. "But I grew up in Dorchester. I know what it's like to struggle to work multiple jobs just to keep the lights on. I didn't grow up in some ivory tower making jokes about people's real problems." Joy's eyes flared. "Ivory tower? That what you think this is? I've been in this business longer than you've been famous, mate. I've earned my right to speak my mind, and I've earned the right to call out rubbish when I hear it." Mark shot back. "You sit there every day, making millions, telling people how they should think, how they should vote, how they should live. Meanwhile, the people you're lecturing are trying to figure out how to make rent." The audience was now silent. The tension was thick enough to slice through. Whoopi tried to interject. "Maybe we should take a quick break," but Joy waved her off, eyes never leaving Mark. No. Want to hear this," she said, leaning back with a smug expression. "Please, Mark, enlighten us. How should we be using our platform? Stick to fluff. Chat about the weather. Plug your latest film without asking anything meaningful." Mark's hands clenched into fists on the table. "You know what, Joy? You're proving my point right now. You're not interested in a real conversation. You're interested in being right. You're trying to make me look foolish because you didn't like what I said." "What you said was ignorant," Joy snapped. All pretense of civility gone. You want to talk about the working class? I grew up in Brooklyn. My father was a lorry driver. Don't you dare lecture me about struggle. Then why do you act like you're better than everyone else? Mark's voice rose, his legendary temper beginning to surface. Why do you sit up here mocking people who disagree with you, their beliefs, their values? Joy laughed, a harsh, jarring sound that echoed through the studio. Their values? You mean your values? It's the same values that got you arrested. How many times, as a teenager? The same values that had you committing hate crimes. The room went completely silent. Mark's face drained of color, then flushed with fury. That's a low blow, even for you. Is it though? Joy replied, eyes glinting. Asterisk, if we're talking about values, then perhaps we ought to talk about your past. Perhaps we should talk about the real Mark Wahlberg, not this polished Hollywood version you parade around. Mark stood up abruptly, his chair scraping harshly against the studio floor. You know what? This is exactly what I meant, he said, his voice tight. You can't have a disagreement without making it personal. You can't debate ideas without trying to tear someone down. Sit down, Mark, Joy said coolly, her tone devoid of warmth. We're not finished. Oh, we're finished. Mark replied, still on his feet, his hands trembling with fury. This isn't an interview, it's a stitch-up. And I'm not sticking around so you can rip me apart for ratings. The cameras captured every beat of the escalating clash. In the control room, producers scrambled for a solution. This was live television at its most volatile. No one had a clue. What was coming next? Joy's eyes glinted with satisfaction as she watched Mark falter. She had him exactly where she wanted him, and she wasn't about to let him walk away. Oh, so now you're just going to storm off, she goaded. It's very mature, Mark. Very man of the people of you. Mark's fists clenched. I'm not running from anything, Joy. I'm choosing not to take part in your circus. My circus. Joy let out a harsh, brittle laugh that set teeth on edge. You came on my show, Mark. You're a guest in my house. If you can't take the heat, you shouldn't have stepped into the kitchen. Whoopi tried again, clearly uncomfortable. Maybe we should just move on and talk about Mark's new film. No, Whoopi Joy cut in, eyes never leaving Mark. I think our audience deserves to know exactly who they're dealing with. Mark wants to talk values and working class roots. Then let's really get into it. Mark lowered himself back into his chair, jaw locked, every muscle tense. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. Let's talk. But let's be honest. Joy's something you seem to struggle with. Honest. Joy's voice pitched upward, sharp with sarcasm. Honest is admitting you're just a pampered actor who's forgotten where he came from. Honest is accepting that you've made millions pretending to be tough while real people live that life for real. Mark's tone dropped to a low, dangerous calm. You think I've forgotten? You think success erased my past? I watched my mother work 3 jobs just to put food on the table. That's not something you forget. Joy waved him off dismissively. Oh, spare me. The whole poor little rich boy routine doesn't wash with me. You want to talk about your mom? Let's talk about how she must feel watching you attack people who are actually trying to do some good in the world. Mark's voice flared. Make the world better. By what? Dividing people every day. Making jokes at the expense of half the country. Treating everyone who disagrees with you like they're thick. I treat stupid people like they're stupid, Joy snapped. And right now, you're acting pretty bloody stupid. The audience gasped. People in the front row visibly recoiled. The atmosphere had moved beyond tense, was now electric. Mark leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper, but deadly serious. You know what's really stupid, Joy? Thinking that because you have a platform, it gives you the right to be cruel. Thinking viewers tune in to watch you destroy people. Joy gave another laugh, but it lacked its earlier bite. Cruel. You think I'm cruel? Yes. I do, Mark said icily. You're exactly what's wrong with this industry. You're a bully with a microphone. Joy's face turned red. A bully from you. That's rich coming from someone who literally assaulted people in the street. At least I use words, not fists. Mark shook his head, incredulous. There it is. You can't win on ideas, so you drag up the past. You can't help yourself. You don't argue, smear. It's pathetic. I'm pathetic. Joy's voice cracked, shrill. I'm not the one who spent a career playing the same one-note tough guy character. I don't think being from Boston makes me authentic, and I certainly don't think being nasty makes me clever. And yet, here you are, Mark retorted, turning real people's struggles into punchlines, reducing complex issues to applause lines, poisoning the well every damn day. Joy stood up now, matching his energy. You don't know what you're talking about. I've done more for social justice than you ever. Joy. I've done more for women's rights and progressive causes than you've done in your entire career. Mark challenging. By doing what? Preaching to the choir. Recycling the same jokes to the same audience every day. Attacking anyone who dares to think differently. Joy defensive. Rising by using my platform to stand up for what's right. By standing up to bullies like you. Mark dry laugh, no humor. Bullies like me. Joy, look around. You ambushed me. You brought me here under false pretenses. And now you're trying to humiliate me on live TV? And I'm the bully. A tense silence swept the studio. Even the crew froze, transfixed by the unraveling. WHOOPI softly. Trying again. Maybe we should take a break, Joy cutting her off. No, we're finishing this. Mark came to promote his film, and our audience deserves to know who they're supporting. Mark? Bitter. You still don't get it? You think this is about me? No, this is about you. You've turned political discourse into blood sport. You've made it impossible for people to disagree without being vilified, Joy, mocking, civil discourse. Like the civil conversation you had with that Vietnamese man you assaulted? Oh, wait, that wasn't a conversation, was it? Gasps rippled. Across the audience, Mark went pale, then red, then pale again. When he finally spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. Mark, you just proved my point. You're not interested in justice. You're not interested in change. You're interested in winning. At any cost. Joy quieter, less sure. I'm interested. In the truth? Mark rising again. No. You're interested in your version of truth. You want to be the smartest person in the room even if it means being the cruelest. Joy's composure cracked. Her voice trembled as she fired back. Joy, you don't get to lecture me. You don't come on my show and tell me how to do my job. Are you? Don't ambush me and then play the victim when I push back. Mark, this isn't journalism. Joy, this isn't even entertainment. It's just mean. The confrontation boiled over. The audience sat in stunned silence. Security edged closer. Producers whispered furiously into headsets. Joy suddenly glanced around and realized she'd lost the room. Mark stood, breathing hard, waiting. The tension hung in the air like smoke. And then Joy made her final, fatal mistake. Joy smirking. You know what, Mark? Maybe you should just go back to your little Boston neighborhood and stay there. Leave the thinking to people who know what they're talking about. Mark's eyes narrowed. Voice like a blade. Mark, my little Boston neighborhood where real people live. Where folks work honest jobs and don't get paid millions to be nasty on TV. Joy snapping. Honest jobs. Like drug dealing, like assault. That's who you were before Hollywood cleaned you up, right? That was it. The line had been crossed. Mark stepped forward. Security tensed. His voice low and controlled. Mark, you want to go there? Fine. Let's talk about your past. Let's talk about your failed comedy career. About how you couldn't make it as an entertainer. So you settled for being a professional hater. Joy's face turned ghostly white. Joy, you don't know what you're talking about. Mark coldly. Don't I? I know bitterness when I see it. I know a frustrated woman who uses her platform to punish anyone who thinks differently. You're not talented enough to be anything but divisive. Joy soft. Barely a whisper. How dare you? Mark calmly. How dare? I tell the truth. You started this, Joy. You invited me here to humiliate me, to score points. But you forgot one thing. He leaned forward, dead center, into the camera. Mark to audience. People are tired of being manipulated. They're tired of venom disguised as virtue. You don't speak for them. And after today, you sure as hell don't speak for me. Asterisk, Mark flatly. Well, congratulations. You've shown the whole world exactly who you are. Whoopi intervening. Okay, maybe we should all take a step back. Mark eyes locked on Joy. No, Whoopi. Joy wants to talk about character. Let's talk about character. Joy stiffens, but doesn't look away. Mark firm. What kind of person ambushes a guest on live television? What kind of person digs up someone's past just to score a headline? You want to talk character? Joy? Let's talk about yours. Joy's hands tremble slightly as she fires back. Joy shaking. You attacked me first. You called me out. Correcting.com. I called out your behavior. I never made it personal until you did. I never dragged your past until you dragged mine. He leans in slightly. More steady, Mark. The difference is I can defend my actions. Can you? The audience is spellbound. The air is electric. No one dares move. Joy defensive. Voice rising. My actions. My actions are fighting for what's right. Standing up to men like you who think they can intimidate women. Mark short, bitter. Laugh, intimidate. Joy, you're not a victim here. You've been the aggressor since the second I walked on stage. You didn't invite me for a conversation. You brought me here for a public flogging. Joy snaps. I asked tough questions. That's what journalists do. Mark shaking his head. No, Joy. Journalists ask questions to find the truth. You ask questions to humiliate, to stir outrage. You're not a journalist. You're a shock jock with a daytime slot. The words hit her like a slap. Joy's face falters for just a beat before the fury returns. Joy quietly. Get out. Mark blinks. What? Joy rising, louder. I said, get out. Get off my stage. Get out of my studio. Mark in disbelief. You're kicking me off after ambushing me. After attacking my past on national television? Joy, pointing to the exit. Yes, I decide who stays. This is my show. Mark stares at her, then slowly shakes his head, a bitter smile forming knocked. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. You invited me here. You made it personal. And now, when I push back, you throw me out. He glances to the audience, then back to Joy. Mark, you've just proven every point I've made about you. Joy calling out, voice cracking. Security. Two security guards shift uncertainly. Mark isn't being violent, just brutally honest. Mark raising his hands. It's okay. I'll leave. He takes a step toward the wings, then stops, turns back one last time. Mark soft, but cutting. But not because you said so. I'm leaving because I respect myself too much to sit here and be insulted by someone. It's forgotten what decency looks like. He takes a beat, and delivers the final blow. Mark, you know what's really sad? Joy, you had a chance today. Real chance to show the country that people can disagree and still talk like adults. You had the platform, the moment, and instead, you chose to play the villain. Joy's face flushes deep red. Her lips quiver, but she says nothing. Mark quietly to the audience. Remember this moment. Remember who tried to have a conversation. Who made it a circus. Remember who was respectful and who was cruel. Remember who walked out with dignity. Mark exits. The studio is dead silent. Even the cameras seem stunned. Narration, voiceover style. Joy stood frozen, shaking with rage and humiliation. She'd handed Mark Wahlberg the biggest win of his public career. She didn't just lose the argument. She'd lost control, lost the room, and maybe lost herself. The producers waved frantically behind the scenes. Whoopi scrambled to cover Whoopi awkwardly. We'll be right back after this commercial break. But everyone knew there was no coming back. The aftermath, clips of the clash would flood. Social media. News segments would dissect every word, every facial twitch. And one truth would ring louder than the rest. Joy Behar had gone too far. She had invited a guest. She'd launched the attack. And when it backfired, she collapsed under the weight of her own aggression. Mark Wahlberg came to promote a film. He left as the unexpected victor in the most one-sided confrontation in talk show history. He walked out with his dignity. Joy lost something much harder to reclaim. The respect of her audience and the credibility of her voice, and for years to come. Whenever this moment was discussed, one question would echo. Who was the professional and who was the bully?